Колеги, продовжимо робочий день.
Dear colleagues, we continue our working day, and I give the floor to the advisor to the head of the Security Service of Ukraine, Markian Lubkivskyi, will talk about the investigation of cases about gunmen and the terrorist act in Mariupol.
Good afternoon, esteemed colleagues. Allow me to share the latest information on the issues which the Security Service of Ukraine is working on, and that is related to protection and defense of Ukraine from foreign aggressor. I would like to say that the situation, as Colonel Lysenko reported, you know about the situation in the ATO zone. It's not improving, it's worsening. The combatants are violating the Minsk agreements or any agreements, and that is reflected on the security situation in the zone of ATO and on the whole territory of Ukraine. First of all, I would like to emphasize that Ukrainian side will finalize the investigation of crimes against humanity that were committed in Mariupol in the result of the shelling of Ukrainian citizens. In the result of these shellings, 30 of our citizens were killed and many were wounded. We are looking for everyone who was involved into these shellings in Mariupol, the shellings against peaceful citizens, and we do have the results. Some of the people were detained immediately after this crime was committed, and we are completing the operation detaining the especially dangerous group of combatants, and the Security Service of Ukraine detained 2 citizens of Ukraine that were involved into this crime against humanity. It was defined that one of them, with the nickname Kora, was the assistant, the helper of the so-called Gaishnik, who was adjusting the shelling. And according to the leader, one of the bands of the so-called Novorossiya, the person with the nickname terrorist, according to his instructions, Kara was sending the weapons to the territory of Mariupol. When this person was detained, the Security Service representatives confiscated 3 grenade launchers, 1 anti-tank grenade launcher, Kalashnikov machine guns, and a lot of cartridges. According to the second detained person, he was enrolled by the leader of the combatants with the nickname Sergei. You see all these weapons. According to the second detained person, who was enrolled by this Sergei more than a month ago, he had to collect all the information about the location of Ukrainian troops, and now the investigation continues. We are looking for everyone who's involved into this crime, and we will provide the information to both Ukrainian and foreign audience. You probably recollect that a few days ago, the Security Service of Ukraine returned from the territory of Ukraine 2 citizens of Russian Federation, the journalists of Life News TV channel. I would like to emphasize that Security Service of Ukraine is not fighting with the mass media. We're not fighting with media, but we will be acting according to principles against all those who bring lies to our land, who are conducting information war against Ukraine. I would like to inform you, and that is absolutely open, that the Security Service of Ukraine, in cooperation with the State Border Service, will strengthen the filtration measures at the border so that such people as those journalists that were sent back from the territory of Ukraine have no opportunity to work on the territory of Ukraine because they are conducting information aggression against Ukraine. I would like to tell you about one important element so that you understand how some Russian journalists are working on the territory of Ukraine. First of all, they come to the territory of our country not declaring that they are journalists and having no accreditation. They arrive as private persons. In their personal luggage, they have a camera or some recording devices which they use to prepare the reports. We will attentively look at everyone who comes from Russian Federation to the citizens of Russian Federation. These are the forced measures, but we will have to do that, and we will inform you about all these cases. We're working in close cooperation with the Ministry of Information and State Border Service to secure Ukraine from the information aggression. And another piece of information which is so important, talking about counteracting information aggression, the Security Service of Ukraine stopped the illegal activity of the information center of Russian diplomatic center named after Gorchakov. That pseudo organization was functioning on the basis of one of the universities of Ukraine. The so-called diplomats, in inverted commas, were conducting anti-state propaganda. The information center started operating in August of 2013, and they were talking about strengthening the relations with Russian Federation, but in fact the center was doing a lot of propaganda, and they were trying to get Ukrainian students involved into Russian circles. They were conducting so-called diplomatic workshops. They were inviting our students to visit Russian Federation to basically brainwash them there, and the work of this center was stopped, suspended. Now, talking about fighting against terrorism, the Security Service of Ukraine receives the questions from people about whether we understand who the terrorists are, who are people conducting subversive activities, who are militants, and the Security Service of Ukraine created this information database of the militants. We know the names of all of them and their personal data. We know we have their photographs. We know what they look like. And we have this database, which for us is now a very important element in fighting against combatants and militants who are fighting against our state. These are some of the photographs so that you understand that this database does exist. It's a very big database, and we know very well who is fighting against Ukraine now. Most of these people and militants, unfortunately, are the citizens of Ukraine. Here you see that some of them are dressed in Russian uniform.
I won't show everybody because it's too huge honor for them, but we do have this information so that anyone interested know that the Ukrainian Security Service does work in this direction. We also have intelligence, which is important and which testifies to the fact that Russia won't stop, and they are conducting a targeted war against Ukraine as according to our intelligence. The 9th of May, the anniversary of liberation from the German fascist invaders, the Russian Federation plans a huge amnesty, and many Russian prisoners will be released who will join the forces of mercenaries. I don't want to scare anyone and create nervousness and concern, but I want everybody to understand that there's a very active and aggressive war waged against us, and we have to be ready to defend our country, which is being done at the moment by the Security Service of Ukraine. We will have more information today, which we will release through our press office. If you have questions, I'm ready to answer. About Russian journalists, this is of course good that you send them to Russia, but don't you plan to initiate a draft law which would require an obligatory accreditation for Russian journalists, or in other way to limit the propaganda work of Russian mass media in Ukraine? Thank you. We are not a subject of a legislative initiative, but you are right. We have already formulated such proposals, and we are in favor of obligatory accreditation, first of all, of Russian mass media in Ukraine. More than that, I have many times asked these questions to our colleagues abroad, like, for instance, how Croatia did during the war. They said that they have totally disrupted any relations with the Serb mass media. I want to emphasize again, we do not have an aim to wage war against mass media, but if they become an element or a means of fight against us, it is understandable that we will disrupt this work in Ukraine. Any other questions, colleagues? Still, on Saturday, what was the role of Viktor Medvedchuk in Minsk, whom he represented, and which authority did he have? I think that our command was absolutely exhaustive, and our press release that the Security Service of Ukraine has incorporated Viktor Medvedchuk into the process of release of hostages and prisoners of war. I want to tell you that this forced measure was justified because, as a result, in particular, of the incorporation of Medvedchuk into this situation, 150 citizens of Ukraine were released. You may remember on the 26th and 27th of December, we proceed from the fact that for us the life of our citizens is top priority and the main thing. And that's why we're taking this measure in order to get out of prison and captivity everyone who is in captivity. As in essence, Medvedchuk is a guarantee of keeping to the agreements in this respect. On your page in Facebook, you have written some weeks ago that there are criminal cases against former MPs Kolesnichenko and Levchenko. Are there real criminal cases, or you have just sent summons to Levchenko, for instance, and he didn't come to answer them? Yes, we have sent out the summons, and I have the wording on my Facebook page. I don't have anything to add in this respect. I think, and I want to tell you expressly, that the fight against separatism and separatist calls and utterances is one of the priorities in the work of the Security Service of Ukraine now. I am positive that soon we will see new names in this respect. Thank you, Markian. Let's hope that we will have regular briefings from the security service, and you will have the opportunity to